Hello! Today we are here to discuss Ezra and Nehemiah.
Finally.
Yes. Finally, we've had it. We've played through it here several times. Rob finally got the chance to join us. He got a copy of it first, Kickstarter-wise, left it here so we could play it. This is the retail version in front of us, though, because we did not get in on the Kickstarter, but...
and I'll talk about the difference.
If you have not yet already done so, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can follow along on all the new releases and the old stuff.
That's right. We got the vault.
Yeah, we haven't hit the vault in a long time.
I know we need to.
You've been missing in
Whatever.
action.
I was moving.
No excuse. No excuse. All right. So, Rob, what can you tell us about Ezra and Nehemiah?
Ezra Nehemiah is a 2024 release. Overall rank is 1,667, but it's got a really good rating at 8.3. So people are really enjoying it. So I'm sure that 1,667 will just get better. Plays at 1 to 4 people at 90 to 120 minutes. I think that's very accurate. Ages 13 and up, which again I think is pretty accurate as well. Designed by S.J. McDonald and Shem Phillips. Good job, Shem Phillips and S.J. Art by Sam Phillips. Published by Garphill Games. MSRP is $59.99, but I found it quite a bit cheaper. I don't know. Have you ever heard of Red 6 Games?
Mm-mm.
So they were listed on Board Game Geek at $42.99. Amazon had it at $51.20. In Geek Market, there were several copies getting sold, anywhere between $50 and $55. And so the only difference between this version and the version from Kickstarter is one was some scroll tiles promo. Mm-hmm. So you got that, and then I also got metal coins. That's the only difference.
You got the ones in metal coins. The things they have fives,
right?
They didn't supply in the
they
Kickstarter,
did not.
Which was my biggest disappointment in the Kickstarter. Is like, if you're going to have ones, why not do the fives?
It'll be interesting. Maybe they might have that at Gen Con or something when we go there. So I'll look for that. But that's really the only difference. So I mean, a little bit of a piece snob. Yeah, it might be something for you to look for. I think the promo tiles would be more important than the metal coins, but I do like metal coins.
Yeah, so I'm looking for both.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are actually recording this right before we leave for Gen Con.
We're leaving today.
Yeah, like in the next few minutes
after
as soon as this video is done, pretty much. So we got to finish our packing and get on the road. So hopefully we'll see you there, but you won't see this video before then. So hopefully we saw you there.
That's right.
All right.
Look for us.
So let's talk about the quality of the components. So most of it is pretty standard fare. You got the resource cubes, which are
plain cubes.
Just, very standard, a little oversized for what you see sometimes, I guess. They do have custom-shaped wooden vases. They have 3 different ones, which they really didn't need, I guess, for color blindness issues. It's kind of nice. But then if you were colorblind, you'd probably have issues picking out which ones are your workers.
Yeah, because the shapes are that different from each other.
Because your workers are all standard.
Yeah.
Then you've got cardboard, pretty much everything else. The card stock is...
And you got other couple trackers for like victory points and some other elements of the game. But yeah, it's all pretty kind of plain. Yeah.
Now, the card stock all of it has linen finish, but it is curling a bit.
It is curling, but it's still a pretty good thickness too, though.
The board is actually really nice.
Board's really nice, and the player boards are really nice.
And they're slightly inlaid. Mm-hmm. And the inlay is really important in this because there's different size tiles that can be upgraded that you slide into slots, and they all fit only in one slot, I like that. So you don't have any confusion about what goes where. There's 2 that are pretty close that I think you could force in if you really tried.
Probably.
But the art doesn't match. If you
they don't. And as long as you don't force it, it's pretty easy to figure out what goes where.
Yeah. So, as far as the quality, I'm probably maybe a 6.5. I don't think there's anything super outstanding about it. It's pretty average, plain. The fact that you do have the linen finish on the cards, and there's a lot of bits to it, and the fact that they give you variety, and particularly in the scrolls, I like. Other than that, there's just, and the wooden custom-shaped meeples, I'm giving a half point for that, I guess.
Yeah, I think 7 is to be just a little too high. It's just very plain stuff. I think 6.5 is a good score.
All right. So moving on to themes, so you're building basically a wall around this city, and you're learning and getting information and from the scrolls of the ancients, and you're contributing to, to your god or gods. I was
No, it's God. I mean, it is biblically based. Ezra and Nehemiah are two kind of important figures in the Bible, the Old Testament.
Yeah.
So, but I would say loosely based, because really, as far as like it's definitely got biblically based, people in it, but the theme is just barely there. I mean, their names are there, and some of the actions, which kind of make sense thematically, fit it, but it's loose at best.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's got pretty art. It was very similar, reminiscent to the Hadrian's Wall.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely tell it's a Garphill Games game, because, I mean, whether it's, is it something of Scythia? That's one of their games.
Yeah, is it Raiders of Scythia?
Yeah, Raiders of Scythia, Hadrian's Wall, this game, the art's very similar. I like it, but it's very similar. You can tell it's the same universe type thing.
As far as being intrinsic to the gameplay, it's similar to Hadrian's Wall. In Hadrian's Wall, you're clicking boxes. In this, you're playing, it's more of a traditional Euro-style game, but it's kind of just layered on. But honestly, you won't care. It's the gameplay you're here for. So, theme-wise, I'm probably going to give it because the art is good, I'll give it probably another 6.5.
I'm going to go a little bit higher, because personally, I like the idea of biblically based games, so it's nice seeing that they pull that history and trying to implement that in a board game. So that's pretty nice. So I want to give it 7 points.
All right. So moving on to the rule book. So the rule book is, the cover matches the box. It's 40 pages long, though.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, that's the thing. You sit down to read this, it's not going to be an easy read. It's one of these games where, if you think about it, a 40-page rulebook is traditionally going to be something more like akin to a war game or
Twilight Imperium type thing.
Yeah, I mean, you're not expecting that in a Euro. I mean, Euros usually range around 20 to 30 pages max. There's the good news is it's laid out very intuitively.
Right.
There's the setup. There's a lot of setup in the game. It takes a bit for that, and it takes the first several pages. Matter of fact, it goes through page. It's to page 10. Really is setup.
Yeah, and I'd say if I wouldn't call it a negative, but if you were to call something about this game a negative, the setup is kind of lengthy.
Yes.
So, I mean, it does take a while to set it up, and therefore take it down.
Yeah. The good news, once you get it out the first time, a lot of it you just can put into bags for your player that has all your starter stuff in it.
I think that after maybe multiple playthroughs and you're really comfortable with the game, it'll probably be a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But still, it took a while, and you've played it several times.
Yeah, but it's been a while since we.
Well, right, but still, the setup was lengthy.
Yeah. And then, after that, it goes through kind of the high-level overview of a turn, which the turns, once you get to playing it, it's pretty simple.
I completely agree. It looks intimidating.
Yes.
And when you first start, it kind of is, because you're like, where do I go? What card do I play? I just don't know. But it's pretty, I agree, it's intuitive. Once you get into it, it kind of flows real well.
Yeah. And they do have a little cheat, almost like called a bookmark, that has most of the rules of your actions, and then the scoring, and the end round, which is the Sabbath in this, and then after 3 is the in-game scoring.
And it's helpful. I used it quite a bit.
So that's very useful. But there are a lot of nuanced rules that it's easy to forget that you can do this or that, but it's not necessarily detailed on the cheat sheet.
Right, because the main actions are pretty intuitive. Yeah. As you said, the scroll tiles, though, that's a different story.
Yeah, that's really the biggest thing. It'd been nice if, because there's at the back there's a lot of reference, and it's actually not as much as you would expect. Scroll tiles have. Two pages of reference, actually.
But they're all different. So it's not like you can once you get used to it, maybe you can start figuring out what the iconography means, but if you're really not comfortable with it, you got to look up every single one.
Because the icons are not intuitive.
Yeah, and it's not used anywhere else in the game,
Yeah.
so it's not like you can figure it out because you've used it throughout.
Well, some of the icons are used elsewhere.
Yeah, but not
the
how
combinations.
and what they really mean and how
Yeah.
they affect your game.
So, every time we play, we always have some little thing we forget and have to go back and catch and correct along the way. And,
And multiple playthroughs will fix that. It's
a lot of playthroughs are going to fix it. If you play a regular playthrough.
It's a good enough game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You will want to.
Yeah, we'll get to scoring here in a minute.
I know. I didn't score yet.
All right. So then the character cards are on the back. All this should have been basically a fold-out cheat sheet for everybody. I think everybody should have had their own. It's because otherwise you got one person with a rule book passing it around, or in this case, everybody asking me the whole time, "What does this do? What does this do? What does this do?" And it's
because you read the rule book.
Yeah,
So
I know.
Who else are we going to ask?
And Miranda's gonna look at it. She's gonna ask me every time. There is a solo mode that's got a section in here that's actually pretty lengthy, about 1, 2,
Yeah, and you had
4,
one there, like, because I haven't
5,
really
6,
looked at it yet.
7 pages of solo play.
Was there separate cards?
There's like lion and sheep cards that are referenced specifically for the player mode, and there's that player board that's specific.
I'm looking forward to trying it out.
If you're a solo player, it's probably going to be a little meatier than what you sometimes see in a lot of games. I think it does a good job conveying the actions. It's just all those little rules that would have been nice, particularly to have something. And the cheat sheet does do a good job of the big stuff.
It does.
So, and there's also a lot of icons on the board, but that's the other thing is the board is very cluttered. So
there's a lot going on.
And it's like, okay, what does this mean? And it turns out it's a reference to one of those small rules, but it's just kind of thrown together in the middle of the board. There's not a lot of rhyme or reason to how it's arranged. There is a little bit association with this.
And it's a little modular in how number of players can change parts of the board. And a little bit of variety in some of the aspects that we'll talk about. But yeah, it's that looking intimidating.
Yeah.
It looks intimidating.
So given all that, I'm still thinking this is a pretty darn good rule book because it does convey the rules pretty well if you can sit through 40 pages. Because of the length and the fact that I think the back portion should have been its own little player guide for every player, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 7.5.
I'll run with that.
Moving on to gameplay. So gameplay in this, first of all, your player board starts out with all your tiles set where you have a cost to upgrade them. Miranda and I upgrade all of ours during the course of the game.
Not to brag.
Yeah. Robert didn't bother to do that.
I upgraded a couple.
But the interesting thing is we all had different strategies we played, and we all were within 3 or 4 points at the end of the game. It can be, you can go vastly different ways, and I like that when you can go different ways and still win.
But it's not really a point salad game, in my opinion. It's just you got multiple strategies that you could use.
Yeah. So each action, each turn you're going to take actions, and you're going to have, your actions are represented by cards. You have a deck of cards that have different banners on them. They have red, gray, or blue banners, and they have some combination of 3 banners pictured on them. This one has 2 red and a blue. It has a trade action at the bottom that you can't make. It's basically an extra action you can take with it, and then a scoring capability at the top, which we'll get into later. But basically, you're going to choose one of these banners and assign it to one of your 3 spots on your board. So you're going to take 3 actions, and generally you're going to want to play them each in a different empty slot. You can cover up because you're going to ultimately play 6 actions, one for each day of the week, minus the Sabbath. And I honestly think that's the main reason they went with this theme, was because there were 6 actions in the resting phase. So
I don't know.
It ties in.
It definitely thematically ties in, but I can't say that that's the sole reason.
I didn't say sole. I said the main.
I wouldn't even go the main.
So you're gonna play the card, and you will trigger based upon how many banners you have in total of the 3 that you can see face up on the cards.
You select.
Of the color you select.
Yeah.
So you don't get to trigger all the colors on the card. You get to choose one color and go with that. So the 3 basic actions, or the three colors, represent multiple actions you can take of those colors, particularly red and blue. Gray, it's pretty much the same action, but there are, I guess, 2 varieties that go with that even. So for the red is probably the most complex one, I would say. So first thing is, before or after your turn, when you do the red action, take as a free action, if you will, although it costs food.
Yeah.
You can assign one of your workers as a Levite to the board, and you have to go up from the bottom up, pay the amount of food there to play them, and you will get the perk on the right. In this case, if the first one you assign, you will get a black cube, which represents ash. And then you're going to then have the ability to take as many actions within the red choices as you have Levites, and these are permanently going to stay on the board. Yeah. You won't have to worry about feeding those workers ever again because you paid them up front, basically their food.
And then it's not just number of Levites, but also the number of banners.
Yes.
Because basically the banners is part of the cost.
Right. But the banners, each action you take has a cost in banners, so it may not be a 1-to-1.
Right.
So you'll have two like if I had 2 Levites, I would have 2 potential red actions, and I would have to pay however many banners they cost. So I may not still only be able to take one, depending on how many banners. Because I've only got 2 red. So the different actions, there's 2 different areas you can go to. So you've got kind of like, I guess this is like the cathedral. I forget what they call it. Temple. So you can go here and you can pay the banners, which you're going along the left side. From bottom up, it gets more pricey, but it starts at 1, goes up to 5. And you can play a wood, which is the brown, or I think white is stone and yellow is gold. You can play one of those 3 types of resources to the board in the row of your choosing, up to the number of banners you've got. You're going to score 1 victory point for everything but gold, 2 for the gold. And
you do have to go bottom, top, and then left to right.
You don't have to go bottom to top.
But you do have to go left to right.
You have to go left or right.
That's right.
But you get the resource that's pictured on that row, and obviously they get better the higher the number of banners are. So you can do that at 1 time per Levite you have. Alternatively, or in addition to, you can take your banners that you have remaining and you can go to the altar. And if you go to the altar, you're going to either use the wood or the ash, and you can basically take, depending on banner count, like for burning wood, you have to spend 3 banners, but you'll get 2 flames that move you up this flame chart. And as you move up along each, various steps of the way, not every step, but you're going to get perks along the way. And there's benefits to being furthest along that track, not to mention each round that you have markers, these 2 guys that are going to mark your breaks for different benefits or losses you're going to have to take. So you kind of want to stay ahead of at least the back one. Right.
And they're not super punitive, but they can be pretty... Yeah. They can hurt.
Yeah, especially if you fall back at the end of the game. It's usually like negative victory points. Like in this case, it's -6 victory points, which would have determined...
That would have totally changed who would have won the game.
Exactly. So it is important to stay up with them. I've, in the past, completely ignored the red actions and just gone for gray and blue. And that's, I think, been to my detriment. I think you have to at least assign some level.
Yeah, you got to stay at least in between the 2 at a minimum.
Yeah. So that's basically your red actions. Now, the gray actions, you're going to basically be using to build the wall. So at the beginning of the game, there's going to be not these wall cards, but there will be spaces on the board for the wall, and then there's gates. The gates that start off, everybody's going to have one at one of the corners of the board that they're going to put a marker on, and it will be there for the rest of the game. But you will still have to feed that worker.
Yes.
So, but these gates represent, if someone builds a wall adjacent to it, you or any other player, you will then trigger whatever the perk is on this tile. In this case, it's a gold. You and that player will get a gold. If you're the one that plays the wall, you will still only get one gold. You won't get one for the wall and one for the gold. So you can only cut out other players from scoring.
And there's usually a perk for building the wall itself too. So lots of various different things happen.
Yeah, so the starter walls, there's no perk. But all the other, the starter gate, there's no perk. All the other gates, you get whatever coin has accumulated on them, because anytime somebody trades and it has a gate action on it, they have to pay a coin.
You pay a coin to that gate.
Yes.
And then when you build the gate, you get all the coins built on it.
Right.
But alternatively, which is kind of a cool element, if I build the gate and then Randy picks a card that you have to pay a coin to that gate, I get the money.
Yeah.
Because I built the gate.
Yeah. That helped out several times for you and me both.
Absolutely.
We both had a gate that was commonly used.
Yeah, my water gate was used quite a bit.
Mostly by Nixon, I believe. And then I had the Valley Gate.
Yeah, and I paid him quite a bit of money to use that one.
You and Brandon both did, yeah. So those two were very commonly used, so it was good that we got those early.
Yeah, I really like that element of the building. It was neat.
And then the wall ones, I like the way the walls work too, because when you have to clear the rubble out before you can do any of this building. So one of the actions you can take is you can pay 3 of your gray banners to remove a gold, or 2 to remove a white or brown, and then 1 for the ash. And you can do as many of those as you want and can afford with your banners. And then if you have banners left over and can build on that space, then you can pay the resources pictured on the space. So when you get these cubes, you're going to contribute them to your stash, so you can then turn around and use them later.
And one of the neat parts of the stash is that when you first start, you're limited to the amount of rubble that you can keep on it. But if you upgrade it, you can keep as much that you want.
Yeah, each one of them has a nice perk for upgrading. So then you're going to, after you decide to build the wall, you're going to take the top 3 cards. You've got your own wall deck. You're going to draw the top 3 cards. You're going to pick which one you want to play there. You're going to put one back on top and bury one at the bottom. So if you get one that's really bad, you can stash it underneath. Right. And then you're going to put that one on play. It's got a victory point condition at the bottom, or not a condition, but a victory point score for that wall. And then you've got a power. Generally, the lower the victory point, the more powerful the card is. So you get the benefit immediately of playing the wall card. And also, I didn't mention, when you clear the rubble off,
there's a
blessing on there, and it's whether one of these vases here, the orange, purple, or red, you get to move up on the chart.
And then if you get all your vases in a column, then you get the perk. Or passed, you get that perk. And if you get them all the way to the ends of the track, there's additional victory points. And an element that we haven't talked about, there's in-game scoring related to them too.
Yeah. Basically, you get, you want to max those out as much as you can. I left, unfortunately, one of mine behind, and that cost me because I had a bonus at the end of the game for how far I had all my column at.
Right.
And I had 2 out of the 3 on the next to last spot. That one was just lagging behind. I could not get any oranges to come up my way. So that's the gray actions. The blue actions, you're basically going to either can gain knowledge from the scrolls, or you're going to journey and travel around, for whatever reason, in a big circle. But, it works because you're going to, every step you take, every breath you make, as you move around the circle, you're going to get a bonus of some kind.
Right.
And some of them are pretty nice.
And every step you get something.
Yeah.
So if you do multiple steps, you'll get multiple items.
So you can use the banners in any combination of the two. Now, the one thing you can't do when you're moving, the cost of moving, you can move up to 4 spaces. The cost gets incrementally higher with each step.
The number of banners and potentially costing rubble.
So normally you can kind of go back and forth and do the actions on these. That's the one exception, because if I want to move 4 times, I can't do 4 different times. I have to go 1, 2, 3, 4 and do the 4 level action, which costs 10
blue banners.
10 blue banners.
I came close to doing the 7 one time, but I never got up to 10.
Yeah. So you got to figure out the combination you want to do. And then on the the scrolls, you start at the bottom. This is would all
Well,
be
you don't
empty.
start anywhere.
Well,
Yeah, you have
it's
to buy
normally
into.
empty. Well, in a 2-player game, there actually is starters down there.
Oh, okay.
So you can use the starters, but again,
But we
you're
played
paying
it-
the bank.
But we played a 3-player game. So.
Yeah, so we play a 3-player, so the board's empty. So you start at the bottom, and you're going to basically acquire on the first level one of these cards, which gives you a perk depending on what level you're at. But most importantly, it tucks underneath your bookmark, if you will, and it gives you a permanent banner of the color of the card, and also gives you a starting point from which you can build for no cost.
Kind of like your research is what you're basically doing.
You can build off of any other player's workers, but for every color of worker or every person's worker that you use, you have to pay a coin for the people you walked upon getting up there. So if I wanted to play here, for example, I would have to pay Rob or Miranda 1, and then Rob 1 here, and then I would play my worker paying the cost of that worker. Right. So it gets incrementally more expensive if you don't use your own. But the thing is, as you move up, the victory point value for each scroll goes up. And at the top level, it's in-game scoring. So if you get all the way to the top and you meet the conditions, you can score some bonus points.
Yeah, and another interesting element, it's definitely not game breaker, but there's food associated with each row. The first person to get into that row gets that food.
Yeah, I managed to get every one of them.
You did major do that. And that's, food you don't have to worry about trying to get at the end of the round, which we'll talk about here in a moment.
So those are the basic actions in the game. So like I said, you're going to play 3 cards, and then you're going to start covering the ones you've got.
Right.
You can only go 2 high is a typical rule. Now, some of the scrolls let you break that rule, where you could stack on the same one and keep your banners down here, because you have to make some hard decisions which banners you're going to go for. And each time you're doing it, you got a hand of 4 cards, and you're replacing the card when you play. So you're going to know you've got these are the 4 cards you're going to have to choose from when you're working out the decision. And so, sometimes it's not clear what direction you want to go on that turn, or else somebody will make an action that kind of takes the stuff you were planning on doing.
Right.
Particularly with the rubble, because when you're doing the walls.
Yeah, when you're first setting up, this is completely random.
Yeah, it's random.
So it's like the only other rule is that there has to be at least in the 3-player game.
Yeah.
There had to have been 10 of each type that's available as resources to pull from.
Right.
But everything else is random on the board.
Yeah.
And it could make a difference if I was really needing the 2 ash and Randy went and grabbed it instead I did.
So then, like I said, there's bonus actions you can take. One is you can use the trade action at the bottom of the card. If you do that, the other action you can do that's kind of the counter to that is the upgrade, where you pay the resources. You can't do both on the same turn unless you have a scroll that lets you break that rule. Then you've also got elders, and I forget what the other ones are. The elders are orange, green, I forget what they are called. But basically, these actions, you can assign a worker who will stay there for the rest of the round. Which round it would be playing all 6 of your cards. And then you get whatever perk is adjacent to it when you play it there. So you can do 1 in each column.
Per round.
Well, you can do it per turn.
Right.
So,
but once you've done it,
for that turn, I can't do it again.
Done.
I can assign another one on my next turn to a column. But you've only.
And those are some really interesting abilities, and they're variable. So Randy dealt these out individually, so they can change. So, and then the upgrades could be very nice as well.
Yeah, so they start out weaker, and then you upgrade them. You get a perk for upgrading them, plus all of them strengthen, which is nice.
And they all have worth victory points at the end of the game too.
And then the thing is, at the end of scoring, whenever you get down to the final, after you've played all 6 of your cards, you have to go through the phase of Sabbath. And during the Sabbath, you have to feed all your workers. So the first thing you're going to do is any workers you still have in your pool, that you start the game with 6 of these, and then you have a resource, kind of like El Grande if you played El Grande, and you got your reserve pool, and you got your active pool. So here, any workers in your active pool, anyone on the board that is not a Levite, you have to feed.
And it's just 1 food per person.
Right.
but you got to get food.
Yeah.
Well, there's a way to get that.
So any of these workers, and also anybody on your board who's assigned
Right.
to a green or orange, you have to feed.
It's just basically everyone that's not in the as a Levite. You
Yeah.
have to feed at the end of the round.
So you can take these workers you have left over and you can assign them to two different roles. One is basically farming. And if you assign them there, you'll produce food and or coin along with it.
It's food and coin
Yeah.
initially. It's 2 food and a coin.
And then, well, it depends. Everybody's style's different.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
I
had one that was
I
weaker.
did get 2 food and a coin.
Yeah,
without the upgrade.
I had one that was weaker, but it gave me permanently where I could pay 2 coin for a food if I was ever starving, so I could not starve.
Buy, yeah.
Yeah. The other one option is to send them to your where you can actually get resources. You can assign them over here. So if you don't need food desperately, resources are always good to have.
Always
as
good.
long as you have storage for them. So you can come to here and get resources that are either, and generally it's the wood, the ash, and the stone. Now mine, when I upgraded it, actually had a space where I could get gold even. But I don't think I even used it because it took me too long to upgrade that.
Right.
But, there's also perks for upgrading because they're worth victory points too.
Yeah, and everybody's is different. So
Yeah.
what I got as an upgrade would have been different than what Randy got.
Yeah. And we just shuffle those and randomly distribute them. So, after we get the food for that, before we feed, we also have to evaluate the altar. So the altar, whenever you move up the track on here, whoever, as we mentioned, you have to be on these meeples. And if you you either gain food, lose food, or you might gain coin or victory points. They have 2 cards that are 2-sided that you have to randomize, which that was kind of a personal beef of mine. Because how do you shuffle 2 cards? And then you finally get one, and then you have to flip it kind of to try to hope you get, to figure out a way of randomizing which side you're going to land on. But I doubt it's really, truly random. So it's kind of a nuisance. I wish they would have just printed 4 cards with backsides on them.
Or left one printed on the board, and then you just, I want to do something different.
Well, that's only
play with
3
the card.
then, as opposed to 4 different choices.
Right, but still, it'd been
Yeah.
1 card versus 2.
I don't like 2-sided cards.
Yeah.
To me, you can't randomize 2-sided cards. It's
That's
just,
true.
So anyway, you evaluate the situation there, and then whoever's furthest on the track gets a perk of an additional person from the resource pool until the end of the game, and at the end of the game they'll get 3 victory points as a bonus.
That's the only thing I did right in the game.
Yeah. One thing we didn't mention on the temple track or temple thing here, as you're building cubes, there's different sections divided on there, 3 different sections. If you fill a section, you evaluate scoring for that section immediately. So
Of the temple.
Of the temple. So whoever played the last cube into that section gets a perk of 2 food immediately. Whoever has the most Levites will get 2 victory points, and if there's a tie, which did happen, whoever's furthest on the altar track gets to break the tie. So you got the 2 victory points, even though Miranda had the same number as you.
Right.
And then whoever's got the fewest contributed Levites, which was always me, gets -1 victory point. So it's a good way of hosing somebody who's not going for the red strategy, which was what happened. Thankfully, they only did it 1 time.
Yeah.
But
We came close to doing a second one,
Yeah.
but we didn't.
so, because that again could alter the condition of the game if you all pulled that off. And then, after that, everybody gets a coin for every Levite they've got in their play area.
Which was nice.
Yeah, so even that helped me. So, I didn't mind. That's kind of why I ignore red, because it's like, worst case scenario, as long as I put some Levites in there, I'm going to get some coin out of it. So, yeah, all in all, I think it's a pretty
There's one other
interesting...
element.
What's that?
We have to pick a card.
Yeah. Your deck of cards, you got that scoring at the top that I mentioned earlier. You get, of the cards, the 6 cards that you have in your play, you're going to pick them up. You're going to choose one of those 6 cards, and you're going to tuck it under it, just like these other cards that you tucked before. Such you only see 1 banner, so you're going to lose 2 of the banners on it, but you'll get the banner and the victory point condition.
But there's some huge points there.
Yeah, because
so it's very important to pick the right ones.
There's 3 rounds in the game total. each time you're going to pick, the first time you're going to pick one card to play, the second time you get two, and the third time you get one. And when you get it, you immediately are going to score all the conditions you've had thus far in the game. So getting one early that's going to score you a lot of points is going to help throughout the whole game. So you want one that not only scores them, I always try to get one that scores the most points, but has even more potential for scoring points later. So like getting, for me, I generally play the scroll actions.
I scored my vases because I kept them built. I built them up pretty quick, fairly early. So that scored me a lot of points.
Yeah, and with the scrolls, there's two cards that really are good for scrolls. So I try to get the one that I think is going to be the most optimal for me and to play early, because I know I'm going to be building up on that one. In this case, I think I actually chose the fire one, which I'd never done before, because I had one of the scrolls I got gave me 3 bonus fire during the scoring round.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so every time, that's how I jumped up to where I was, because I didn't have to worry so much about these guys, because I would move up past them very quickly with those three free flames I got. So, I think that, it's an interesting concept. There's a lot of thought you have to put into your turns to make sure you get the banners that you need. Now, one of these, like the elders, actually give you bonus banners, and taking advantage of that when you need them is really key to the game, too, I think.
I agree.
So knowing when to play things and what to play in the right conditions is very important.
That's the meat of it, and there's a little bit of interaction too. Yeah. So like we talked about, whether it's rubble and trying to get it, and maybe someone else not getting it when they really wanted that, or building up the sacrifice of the resources in the temple. That's a big deal. And then the flame trap or the altar, where you're at compared to others, and just there is some interaction, but it's not at any point a situation where you're hosing somebody, where you completely screw them over.
Well, and that's the other thing, is you can actually even do it on the scrolls, because I had that happen to me one game where I built up most of the scrolls, but I didn't get all the way up to the 4th level. I was waiting until I got up there to see what my conditions for scoring was, and then everybody piggybacked off. I got a bunch of coin, but they all took the spots that I was going for. It's like, well, I'm glad I set that up for everybody to get up there, because when you build, anybody can use it, so you're setting up for that next level.
So it's not an end-all, be-all. It's just that interesting interaction between the other players that I really liked it.
It's not really a solitaire, multiplayer solitaire game. There's definitely interaction and taking advantage of what other people do.
It definitely adds a little bit of extra tension that I like in a game.
And of course, if you're not playing the red strategy, you got to keep an eye on that anyway, because somebody could just run that on you and cause you to lose a lot of victory points. So although I find this a very interesting game, it's actually probably, of the ones so far that I've played this year, new releases, I'm going to have to say it's probably my pick for best of the year so far.
So far, this has been an excellent game. So I was really, really impressed with it overall.
Yeah, this year has not been as strong as last year was as far as releases, I don't think. There's been some good ones, but I haven't seen a lot in the great category, but this one I think falls into that great category.
I agree. It does.
As far as the gameplay goes, I think it knocks it out of the park. I'm probably going to give it a 9.
I think I'm a 9.5. I just really enjoyed it. It's got everything I like in a game. It's got the tension, but it's not so much where it makes you angry. And so I really, really impressed with this game.
And I'm not sure what Miranda's score would be.
I think she would be at least a 9. Yeah, she really enjoyed it as well.
She likes it more than I do, so it's probably closer to your score.
I left mine, and I think they bought it within a couple weeks after you guys playing it.
As soon as it was available at the shop, we ordered it because I knew she loved it so much, and it hasn't dwindled in each play we play. So it only has gotten more interesting.
Highly recommend it.
Yeah, this is definitely a pickup if you like Euros. This one, it is your traditional dry Euro, but it's one that's going to make you think a lot. And there's a lot of meat in it. And the scroll tiles, there's a lot of ones you don't use each game, so there's going to be a lot of variety as far as what comes out in that track.
And in the order they come in.
Yep. So, and again, there's a little bit of variety on the altar, not as much as I'd like to see, and certainly not handled as well as I'd like.
Yeah, but that's, just room to grow for expansions. And they really have, I think they've left it open to really add more to it later on down the road.
Yeah, and I think your promo tiles were additional scrolls.
Yeah.
So it's even more variety when you add in those. But I haven't seen any additional cards or anything like that come out yet. So, there could be more coming.
Well, we might see something at Gen Con. Maybe there's some promo Gen Con stuff that would be really cool.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, hopefully we saw you at Gen Con. If so, you stopped by and said hey to us. Looking forward. I know there's a couple people we know are coming up that are fans of the channel that we're going to see up there. So
and I'm super excited because all I get to do is play games. I didn't volunteer for anybody.
Yeah.
So it's just playing games. The whole 4 or 5 days I will be there.
All right. So now we're signing off so we can hit the road.
That's right.
So
bye.
Bye.